how's the tour going? We are at sort of almost the end of this leg of the tour. You just did, a bunch of Boston hometown shows. How you feeling? How you doing? How you holding up?
Good. We had a day off yesterday here, so that made up for it.
We appreciate you being here today instead of napping or eating cheesesteaks or running the rocky stairs or whatever else you might be doing. Thanks for coming and spending some time with us.
Sure.
We really appreciate that. So that was Bella Spree from the new album Head Carrier. Everybody has a story when we're talking about a band like the Pixies. Everybody has a story. And mine, abbreviated, goes a little something like this. I became a fan when the band wasn't a thing. That's just sort of my age and college radio and that sort of thing. And then all of a sudden, there was a reunion, and it was 2004, and it was Coachella, and I was in Detroit, Michigan, and I was like, I'm going to drive down to Coachella to see this. This is important.
Did you drive down on Route 66? All the way to Los Angeles,
and then passed down to Indio. I drove all the way down, and
sounds like a good road trip.
It was a pretty fantastic road trip, and it must be going pretty okay for you because 13 years later and 2 albums later, well, here we are,
still driving down that old Route 66 from Chicago all the way to L.A.,
Detroit.
Does it go through Detroit?
No.
No, it doesn't.
I picked it up somewhere along the way.
I was thinking you're right, it starts over.
And there were no navigation devices at that time.
So you had to go on like a canal probably to Chicago and then get on the route.
Horse and carriage, something along those lines, for sure. I don't want to dwell on Coachella that much, but being in the audience for something like that was a big deal as a fan. And I know for other bands that played that, it was a big deal because they're fans too, because your influence reverberates in music throughout everything that we know. And I heard, it was a rumor, and I don't think on the internet you could look it up at that time, that it was a big deal because Radiohead played Creep that same year in 2004, that they played that same festival, Coachella. And I heard it was because of you. Can you confirm or deny that rumor?
What's that?
That Radiohead was like, we don't play Creep, but we're playing Creep in our set list at Coachella because the Pixies.
I don't know.
Well, for fans, it was a big deal.
Can either of you confirm this?
All I remember is they said we shouldn't be going on. It's like the Beatles opening up for us.
You were the Beatles opening up for.
Don't.
Joey, you've been texting me about the Beatles all morning. You should see this. Send me a picture of the Beatles at the where is that? At the Hollywood Bowl. He wants me to get a vest like him. He's like, and he sends me a picture of the Beatles with all their vests
matching.
And he's like, we should have vests. And I was like, all right, well.
Will we all be wearing mismatched shoes?
No, he would match you. Oh. Joey's colorblind in one eye, so he's.
Are they mismatched?
I thought that was a really cool fashion statement. Please tell me it's a really cool fashion statement.
I just don't give a...
Radio 104.5 with the Pixies. I don't want to dwell on influences or anything too much either, but I read that, but it's undeniable that part of the makeup of the band, part of the chemistry is your amazing female bassist, and that...
Pass.
And that when that started, that it maybe wasn't something you thought too much about, but you kind of mentioned the idea of the Talking Heads and Tina on bass, and that being something you took away from them and thought, this might work for us.
Well, right before Joey wrote me back, I wrote him a letter from where I was attending school in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and I had made cassette dupes of some records to take with me to listen to on my Walkman. And I did it. I made an error, a technical error, and so most of the records that I recorded to the cassette tapes did not record to the cassette tape, so they were blank. But there was one Ramones record and one Talking Heads record that I had with me during that period. So I listened to one particular Talking Heads record quite a lot and one Ramones record quite a lot. So maybe maybe hearing some of that dynamic. Maybe I don't. Peter, Paul, and Mary is another big reference too. If you were of a certain generation, your mother probably got obsessed with that record at a certain time in her life and played it a lot around the house. So that's what happened to me.
Do you feel like, do you ever stop and think about that newer bands as they're making music, or really over the last, 3 decades, maybe look at your band and take references from what you're doing? I mean, I think Nirvana is one of those bands that everybody has sort of recognized that's the case. But do you ever stop and think about that and let that chug around in your brain a little bit?
No.
You just do what you do?
Well, that's kind of what you do if you play music, is you listen to records and then you start a band, and that's how everybody does it. So, yeah, that's just, that's just what you have to do, unless you're going to make music in a vacuum, which is nothing wrong with that, I suppose. But I wouldn't know how to do that. There might be someone out there in the world that could do that. I don't know. That would be an interesting experiment. If someone, like, if they found, the wolf girl, hadn't been raised by wolves and hadn't been, and then she got brought back to society. Could you make some music, not ever having had any reference? Then could be a good record.
Definitely harder in the internet age than previously. But yes, the wolf girl.
Wolf girl.
Talking, making music with the Pixies. A round of rapid fire questions. I'll give you 2 options, and just first thing that comes to your mind. Festivals or headlining shows?
Headlining festivals.
When you're the Pixies, you can have it both ways. Have your cake and eat it too. Twitter or Instagram? Or don't care?
Instagram. I'll be honest.
Books or movies?
Books.
About movies.
What about movies about books?
Books about movies.
Books about movies. Day or night?
Day or night. Day for night.
Hard Day's Night. Bringing it back to the Beatles.
Beatles. Saw it.
And flying or driving?
Flying or driving.
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 Although I like the odd private flying experience that we once in a blue moon.
Yeah, I could see that'd be nice. The Pixies on Radio 104.5, where we have a whole bunch more music and a lot more to talk about. And what we're going to do now is take a pause, send it back to the studio, Radio 104.5. But what's going to happen is we are going to continue with the live video stream at radio1045.com. So if you're not already there, please join us there with the Pixies. Okay, cool. We talk books or movies or books about movies. Frank, I didn't realize until just recently you had written a book, but not about music, sort of about film.
It's about a movie.
Yeah, it's about a movie.
I didn't actually write it. My friend Josh wrote it. I just kind of yelled at him while he was reading it back to me at the Starbucks there where we usually meet. So I can't. He was much more of a writer than I am. But
An
anyway,
illustrator as well, right?
I don't like that. That's all I did.
He illustrated it as well, right?
Say it again, Frank.
He didn't illustrate it. Someone else illustrated it.
Oh, a guy actually that did some illustrations for us many years ago on a record called Trompe Le Monde, who has a strip of the Guardian, did the artwork for that, and so I guess it's what you call a graphic novel.
Graphic novel.
Sort of a oversized comic book or something like that.
I like that. Did the experience treat you well, and is it the kind of thing you think you would do again?
I don't mind hanging out in the coffee shop as long as I just have to. That's the type of work that it is, without too much.
Any interest?
I don't want to. I took typing, and I got a B in my typing class. I can type pretty, but now with all the it's like the laptops and everything. The keyboard's a little different than what we learned on when I was a kid, right? So all of that just out the window. Like I can't. I guess maybe is there some kind of a keyboard I can get that's just like a typewriter that's laid out like a typewriter, maybe?
Like those.
I'd like the because I got it's in there. The muscle memory's there.
Like those old phones that you can, phone receivers you can plug into a cell phone, like old school retro throwback. You need that for your computer, like the typewriter
Right.
keyboard.
Yeah, just so I could
Anybody? Would somebody
Then you
get
don't
a
have to
Google
look.
that?
You can kind of go like this. Yeah. Buy a typewriter. I guess I could buy a typewriter. Yeah.
Any interest in
They don't
talent?
ever swipe. My wife buys old typewriters all the time. Oh, look at this cute old. And my kids are all like, "What's this?" But they never work. They never work. They gotta, you have to kind of tenderly bring those back to life. I suppose they might have some of the electric ones. Maybe they're still working, right?
Dictation into your phone.
Let me see. Do you do that?
I never did dictation. Wait, am I allowed to say dictation?
Yep. We're on the internet. You can say anything you want. Maybe not the way you said it, though.
Say it again.
Dictation?
The band spent a fair amount of the years in an era where you were not updating the universe on everything you were eating for breakfast every moment via Twitter and that sort of thing. I'd imagine there are a fair amount of untold things. There are mysteries that people like me might be interested in reading about. So you've written a book about movies, a movie. Any interest in telling the tale of the band in that way?
I mean, you could just go to the Wikipedia page. It's probably pretty accurate. I don't know. Just you can add your own.
I'll take that as a no.
Anecdotal stuff. You know what I mean? Talk about the Coachella, the Route 66 thing. Put that in there.
I know my story. I want to know it from your perspective.
Well, like I said, we try to update that Wikipedia as often as we can, and I think that's probably the best source.
Okay. All right. I want to talk more about books in a different direction.
Old YouTube clips, from cable access TV interviews. That's the best place to see old footage of bands or whatever. You know what I mean? I'm quite smitten with this. What do you call it? Hector Lavoe clip of him on Panamanian TV with what's his name? The big Cuban Puerto Rican musician from New York. Plays the trombone. Willie Colon. Thank you. Sorry. Willie Colon, basically. Willie Colon bands. Anyway, early 70s footage, or pick your favorite band, whatever, from yesteryear and go find them on the YouTube somewhere, you're doing a number on some old TV show or whatever. And it's really, there's so much great stuff.